Yeah.
Let's get started, everyone. So, hi, everyone, and welcome to our fourth travel inspiration webinar. And of course, we are so glad you're here with us today. I'm Mary Ellen, and I was late, and I'm from JoinMyTrip, and I'm going to be your host tonight. So, to highlight our travel inspiration webinars are conducted every 2 weeks. You might have already attended some of them, and we want to just give you some inspiration on great destinations in the world where you can travel once Corona is over. So hopefully that will be soon. And of course, our aim is to get you more familiar with specific locations by the end of the webinar. And today's destination is the beautiful country of Finland, and being Finnish Canadian myself, I'm of course excited to tell you about what makes this country so special. My co-host is Jasmine, and she is also a Finnish expert, and I'll let her tell you why.
Thank you so much for the introduction, Mary Ellen. So hi guys, I am Jasmine, and as Mary Ellen said, I am a Finland expert myself because I am half Finnish and half Thai, and I'm super excited to share my knowledge about our beautiful home country. So I hope that you guys enjoy the presentation and have your pens and paper ready to write down all the information we are about to share. And of course, you can also ask me and Mary Ellen your questions at the end.
Yes, so thank you, Jasmine. And since we're both half Finnish, we're obviously really curious as to how many of you guys have already visited Finland. So we're going to do a quick poll, so you can just answer yes or no if you've been to Finland.
Yes.
Yep.
No.
So what are the results looking like? Oh, here we go.
Yep, the poll is going.
Oh, some people have been.
So it looks like the majority of you guys haven't, but some of you guys have.
Yes, so hopefully for those who have already been, we'll tell you something that you don't know yet. And of course, for those who have not been, we have lots of information to tell you. And hopefully after watching this webinar, you'll want to visit Finland. And then we have a few rules, nothing too crazy, but so that we can all have a smooth experience with our audience, we ask that you keep yourself muted, and you'll find the mute button in the bottom left corner. So of course, during the questions round, you can unmute yourself and ask any questions you have. But if you have any questions that come up during the webinar, you can just put them in the chat, and Jasmine and I are going to do our best to answer them. And if we don't get to your question, then you can ask it again at the end, and we will try our best. And also, to make the presentation really interactive, you can share your reactions using the emojis during the webinar, and you can find them by clicking the button in the bottom middle. So if you want, you can just give that a try. All right, and then so before we start with our trip, we're going to give you a little bit of an introduction about JoinMyTrip, who we are and what we do if you don't know yet. So Jasmine, if you'd like to explain to everyone.
Yes, of course. So have you ever been faced with a challenge of wanting to go on a specific trip and you were super excited about it and couldn't wait to start planning, but then you ran into the issue that you couldn't find anyone to go with because you didn't have the time or didn't like the trip, or maybe you guys didn't have the same traveling style and you ended up not going at all? Well, we realized that a lot of people were facing this challenge, and that's why we created the platform JoinMyTrip. So our mission is to basically connect travelers like you guys to go on trips together, and that is planned by one person, which is the trip leader. So thank you. And yeah, so we realized that a lot of people had this problem. And as you can see here, we want to empower everyone to experience the world with their own eyes. And here you can get an impression of how this looked like in the past. So over 140,000 people are already part of the JoinMyTrip family. And we aim to expand in the future even more, especially when Corona is over. So make sure to check out joinmytrip.com as well after this webinar. And of course, today, if you guys did not guess already, we are traveling to Finland, a country that has become popular for tourism in the past years. And we will tell you what makes it so special. And who knows, maybe you'll find your Finland travel buddies on our platform. Finland is a beautiful and unique country, one that you'll definitely have some new experiences in. So, Mary-Ellen, what's the first thing they should definitely try when they are in Finland?
Yeah, so you might have already guessed this one, but one unique experience to have in Finland is definitely sauna and swimming, because it's just not a trip to Finland without that. And no worries, you can do this in the winter as well. So a lot of crazy Finnish people go swimming in ice holes and then go sauna after. And Finland actually has many public saunas as well, and they're not ashamed of nudity. So you can keep that in mind. But of course, there's usually separate saunas for men and women. But even in the capital city of Helsinki, you'll find Löyly and Alla Seapool, which are public saunas, and that also have swimming pools. So if you are just coming to the capital city of Helsinki, you still have the possibility to do that. And actually, Finns, they obviously love their saunas. There's a total of 5.5 million people in Finland and 3.3 million saunas, which equals to about one sauna per household or half a sauna per person. And in Finland, it's perfectly normal to get a sauna invitation from a new workmate. So saunas are kind of known as the ultimate social space for Finnish people. So Finnish people are known to be uncomfortable, but somehow in the sauna, those guards are let down. And then, of course, traditional saunas are heated with wood. And then when water is thrown on the stove, it's called löyly. So if you want a little bit more steam, you can just ask for a little bit more löyly.
And of course, Finland is also known for its clean nature. So hiking opportunities in the summer and skiing in winter are many, especially Lapland is known for its snowy landscapes. In the winter and in the summer, you can enjoy Finland's many national parks, nightless nights, and countless lakes. And then next up, of course, we also have dog or husky sledding in the northern Finland, which is known as a pretty unique experience to be had on your visit. This can, of course, only be done in the winter time, though. However, Finland does have a status of being a winter destination, so make sure to dress warm because the speed of the dogs is no joke. Mary-Ellen, do you want to talk about the other activities that are worth experiencing in Finland?
Yes, of course. So next up, we have the Northern Lights. So being one of the most northern countries, Finland gets really cold and really dark in the winter, speaking from personal experience. But the plus side of this is that you have a good chance of spotting the Northern Lights in Finland, especially, of course, up north. And the best time for spotting the Northern Lights is from October to March. So yes, the Finnish winter is hella long. But towards the end of the presentation, we actually have more tips on where and when to see the Northern Lights, so hang in for that. And then next we have, you've probably seen many pictures on influencers' pages of the Finnish glass igloo. So as you might guess, staying in one of these requires a little bit more of a budget, but hey, when you're in Finland, this is definitely an experience to be had. And then last but not least, moving on to Finland's summer activities. So Finland's summers are amazing because of the sleepless nights, so the sun literally doesn't set. And Finland's midsummer festival, Juhannus, is celebrated at the end of June. So if you happen to be in Finland at that time, it's definitely this cultural experience that you can have. And celebrations take place all over the country, and you'll find that one of the traditions is the burning of a huge bonfire by the name of a kokko. And of course, Finnish people love drinking, so Juhannus is all about drinking in heavy Finnish style. Then speaking of drinking, Finland has some interesting culinary traditions, so I'll let Jasmine talk to you about those.
Yes, so Finnish people have their fair share of interesting food, but it's just not a visit to Finland without at least trying some of them. So first of all, what you need to know about Finns is that they love their coffee. I think on average, we Finns drink 8 to 9 cups of coffee a day, which me and Marilyn saw through a research, which is actually a huge amount. We were even surprised ourselves. But that being said, they gotta have their fair share of bullakahvis or cinnamon buns paired with a cup of coffee. Basically, every cafe will serve cinnamon buns, so you don't even have to go looking for it. And it's usually under the name of korvapuusti, and coffee is kahvi in Finnish. And then next up, we have Karelian rice pie, also known as Karjalan piirakka, which is a classic salty Finnish treat. And it's a rice pudding on a rye pastry with munavoi, which is egg and butter on top. Sounds weird, but it's actually really good. And then next, you'll find no shortage of candy in Finland, that's for sure. But one candy we Finns love is the salted licorice, which is also called salmiakki. And then next up is my personal favorite, which is the salmon soup, also known as lohikeitto. Finns love their soup because what else do you do when it's so cold outside for half of the year? So salmon soup, of course, has salmon in it, potatoes, and some vegetables in a creamy stock. Classic. And you're also most likely to spot ruisleipä, which is rye bread, at every restaurant or cafe you go to. And it pairs really well with the salmon soup as well. And for those who might be interested in some special Finnish alcoholic beverages, then do check out salmari, which is a salted licorice liquor. And it can be found in almost all Finnish alcohol stores. And another must try is lonkero, which is the Finnish long drink, and it's usually flavored in grapefruit. So you can find that in every grocery store as well.
Yeah, so as Jasmine mentioned, most of the treats you can find at restaurants and cafes around Finland, and then of course pubs and alcohol shops for the alcoholic beverages. And you'll find more interesting treats like reindeer soup if you end up going up north, but you'll be sure to find something to suit your taste. If nothing else, I can guarantee you that everyone will like the cinnamon buns. And then moving on to the infrastructure. So after this little culinary overview, there's some things to keep in mind when organizing your trip, of course. And one of the most important questions that you might have is where to stay. So of course, we recommend some place with a sauna, and Finland has plenty of Airbnbs and cottage rental possibilities. We're going to share some links with you so you can check those out. But you can really immerse yourself in Finnish nature by staying at a place like this. And of course, the cities have plenty of hotels and hostels if you're traveling more on a budget. And in general, accommodation in Finland is really well equipped. So wherever you're staying, it'll be clean and nice. But actually, many hotels and hostels also have a sauna. So when you're making your booking, you can kind of just keep an eye out for that. And in terms of camping, if you decide to go camping in Finland, we suggest you do this in the summertime, but you can camp anywhere as long as it's not someone's private property. So in Finland, there's not really signs that say private property, so you kind of have to be aware of your surroundings and where you are. But in general, it's possible basically anywhere. And then Jasmine, what do you figure if you came to Finland? Where do you stay?
Well, if I was staying in the city, for example, Helsinki, I would probably stay in a hotel or maybe even rent an Airbnb. But to truly get the Finnish experience, I would say to rent a cabin in the woods by a lake, because in Finland, we love to escape to our cabins, especially during the summer seasons. And it's the best way to truly get to experience the Finnish dream.
Yes, so thanks for your insight, Jasmine. And now we're going to talk a little bit more about the transportation in Finland. So in general, the public transportation is absolutely amazing. Seriously, you can get like to the middle of bushwhack with the use of public transport, but of course, rental cars are always an option as well. But really, I want to emphasize that Finland is known for its infrastructure when it comes to public transport. So wherever you're going, you can be sure that there's some sort of bus or train going there as well. And prices are also relatively reasonable, so you don't have to worry too much about that. But if you want to book in advance, the best places to check out public transport is vr.fi for train journeys and then matkahuolto.fi for buses. So we'll share those links with you as well. And then of course, most cities also have their own apps for public transport. For example, the one in Helsinki is HSL. So you'll find that you can buy your tickets and plan your routes with the use of those apps also.
So, the moment you've probably all been waiting for, how much will my trip cost? Well, overall, Finland is quite an expensive country, but you do get what you pay for. The currency in Finland is the euro, and in terms of cash, Finns don't really use cash anymore, but of course, it's still accepted. And debit and credit cards are almost always accepted. So, and Finland is also a very safe country, although you should always be aware of where your money is at. You don't actually have to stress about holding onto your purse for dear life at all times. And when we say Finland is expensive in comparison to other European countries, yes, but no more expensive than other Nordic countries. You can get by with a budget of 100 euros a day if you're staying at hostels, using public transport, and not living so lavishly. Otherwise, it could cost more. However, tourists do often complain about alcohol prices in Finland, so the stereotype that Finns drink a lot does not come without a price tag.
Yes, and then moving on to some general tips for all of you for traveling to Finland. So everyone from the EU can travel to Finland freely without a visa for a period of 90 days, as well as British, American, Canadian, and Australian nationals do not need a visa. And in terms of packing, probably one of the most important things to take into consideration when you're coming to Finland is how you dress. So especially in the winter, don't underestimate how cold it can get, because it can get like freaking cold. So we suggest that before you come, just keep up with the weather forecast and check out what's in store. And of course, it's a good idea to pack a lot of layers. And even in the summer, I'd suggest packing a jacket or two, because when the evening cools down and the mosquitoes come out, you'll want to have that. And then also, no tipping is required in Finland, and service fees are always included in the bill, so you don't need to stress too much about that either. Jasmine, more tips.
Yes, so in Finland, make use of the public transportation because it works like a charm, especially if you're in the city. Do use the public transportation, and the buses and trains are usually always on schedule, because no matter the weather condition, if it's blizzarding and snow and the snow is 15 meters high, you can guarantee that the buses and trains will still run in Finland. So you don't have to worry about the weather conditions. Everything in Finland is designed to work in any weather conditions. And then next up is to respect the nature. In Finland, Finland has a rule of every man's land, which means you can walk basically anywhere that isn't someone's backyard or property. However, respect the nature around you, because when it comes to the nature, Finns are serious about it, and we do like to keep our nature clean. And then next up in Finland, you can only buy alcohol from grocery stores between the hours of 9 to 9 p.m. And the alcohol that's usually found in the grocery stores are the alcoholic beverages that have an alcoholic percentage of 5% or lower. Otherwise, if you would like harder liquor, then you will have to go to Alko, which is the Finnish alcohol store. And another thing about Finland is that you will find Wi-Fi basically everywhere. In long distance trains, coffee shops, and many public spaces also offer Wi-Fi for free. So if you're staying longer, you might even consider getting maybe a prepaid phone plan from Arkioski, which is the Finnish kiosk. It's about 10 euros for 2 weeks, which is a pretty good bargain. So Mary-Ellen, could you tell us a tiny bit about the current situation in Finland regarding the coronavirus?
Yeah, so as we all know, the coronavirus situation keeps changing and it's hard to keep track. So obviously, always check up on the latest regulations. But currently in Finland, we're actually in lockdown until the end of April. So for very limited number of reasons, you can come to Finland. For example, if you're traveling for business, or if you're a Finnish citizen reuniting with family. But other than that, there's not really the possibility to come to Finland right now. There is a select number of countries with very low cases that can come for leisure travel, but then they're required to do the 14-day quarantine even upon arrival. So right now the situation is kind of crazy, but by the 1st of May, when the regulations are down, the cases here are relatively low. So I'm quite positive that the situation is going to change for the better. And then speaking of safety, we have a how to travel safely this summer webinar, where you can learn about how to travel safely during COVID and where you could go. It's on Wednesday, April 21st. So at the end of the webinar, we're going to send a link for that. So feel free to sign up if that's something that you're curious about. And then Jasmine and I thought that it would be fun to play a little game about stereotypes about Finns. As we all know, there's a lot of stereotypes about Finns that you might have as well. So Jasmine and I thought that we'd educate you on whether it's true or not. So you can see the two little buttons there, true for the check mark and false for the X. So if you just want to press when we say the stereotypes, either one of those, and then we'll see if you're right or not. So the first stereotype goes, Finns are always drunk. So what do you figure? Jasmine, what do the people say?
So it's actually equal. Now it's more. So there's 3 no's and 2 yeses. So yes, it is actually true. Finnish people do have a special relationship with alcohol, mostly to get through the long and hard winters. The pub culture can especially be seen on Friday and Saturday nights. And those Finns who take drinking seriously usually drink heavy. So drink like a Finn isn't a saying for no reason. But no, Finns aren't always drunk. Some say that the only way to get a Finn to speak is by getting them drunk, though.
And then we have the second stereotype that Finland is like other Scandinavian countries. True or false? What do you think?
So it's pretty equal as well. So false. Finland is actually not even technically considered to be a part of Scandinavia. However, it is part of Nordic, which Iceland is also a part of. So if you guys don't know, Iceland isn't part of Scandinavia either. So Iceland and Finland is part of Nordic. Also, the Finnish language is very different from all the other Scandinavian languages, which are quite similar to each other.
Yes, this is true. And then stereotype 3, you might already know the answer to this question from previously, but Finns love to get butt naked.
True. So most of you guys have been paying attention. As mentioned previously, Finns aren't afraid of their nakedness, and you shouldn't be surprised to run into this in the public saunas around Finland either. So just embrace your nakedness.
And then moving on to the last stereotype, Finns hate small talk.
So majority of you guys voted true, which is 100% true. Finns hate small talk. We don't even know what small talk is. So if you guys would small talk to a Finn, they would be put into a very uncomfortable situation and have no idea what to do in that situation.
And then some helpful tips.
Yes, so before we move on to the actual, oh my God, I'm so sorry. So before we move on to the actual tip, the first one is to always wave your hand out for the buses and trams if you're planning on using the public transportation. I know that in many countries you don't have to do that and the driver will stop anyways, but in Finland, if you don't wave your hand out, they won't stop for you. So don't expect the buses and trams to stop if you're just standing there. And then the second one might seem a bit obvious, but don't walk in the bike lanes because a Finn will not be scared to tell you off for it. And then another important tip is to beware of elks when you're driving. It's a small issue in Finland that when you're driving, sometimes the elks will run across the road, and the elks are actually a lot bigger than you think. So if you do crash into an elk, it will completely destroy your car. So always keep an eye out when you're driving. And then the next one we've already briefly mentioned earlier is to beware of trespassing in other people's property or forest. Of course, there's no sign to know since it's not really common in Finland to put private property signs. So there's no really any way of you really knowing whether you're in someone's private property. But this also includes not cutting down trees. I actually had a friend who cut down one of his dad's friend's trees in a forest, and he got fined around 3,000 to 5,000 euros for just that one tree. So if you don't want to come back home with a huge fine, leave the trees alone.
I'm just laughing because those problems are so Finnish. Like, who says beware of the elks? Oh, it's funny. Okay, so now that you have all the
Yeah. Welcome to Finland, guys.
it's literally such Finnish issues. But now that you have all the basic information you need about traveling to Finland, we're going to present to you a Finland itinerary that was created by JoinMyTrip's, one of JoinMyTrip's trip leaders, Evan. But because his trip was only over 5 days in southern Finland, Jasmine and I included some more stops that we thought might be interesting.
Yeah, so first of all, let's give a geographical orientation of where Finland actually is. As you can see here on the map, Finland is located in the northern Europe, in between Sweden and Russia here. And now that you know where Finland is, we can actually move on to the route. So on the map here, you can see part of the itinerary of Evan's spots, plus the spots Marilyn and I think are worth visiting around Finland. So as we mentioned, Evan's trip is over 5 days in the south of Finland. But if you want to enjoy the north of Finland as well, then we recommend spending at least 2 weeks. And you also might notice that this slide design might look a little familiar to you, since this is also how all the itineraries look on the JoinMyTrip platform. So for the very first stop, our journey starts in Helsinki, the capital of Finland. Helsinki is a vibrant seaside city, and you can certainly experience the Nordic culture here. As said previously, getting around with public transport in Helsinki is super easy by downloading the HSL app. And from Helsinki, you can also discover the Finnish archipelago by taking a ferry, for example, to the Suomenlinna Island. The ferry actually leaves from Kauppatori, which is the market square. And the ferry tickets are usually included in your public transportation tickets as well. And in the picture here, you see Tuomiokirkko, which is a popular tourist spot as well. So the white building in the middle with the green roof. So what's our next destination, Mary-Ellen?
Yes, so then we move on to Hanko, and as you might guess, judging by the pictures, Hanko is a great place to visit, especially in the summertime, and the city is actually considered to be Finland's summer town. It's possible to get to Hanko by taking a train to Karjaa from the central station in Helsinki, and then another one to Hanko, so the trip lasts about an hour and 45 minutes. So again, do leverage Finnish public transportation if you're not wanting to drive, because you can get from place to place. And also, if you do end up driving, of course, that's possible, but the trip will actually take you around the same time. So in Hanko, you can visit Park Cafe, which is a seaside cottage cafe where you can have a summertime drink. And you can also enjoy walking in the Tulliniemi nature path by the ocean and hike to the very southernmost tip in all of Finland. And then we move to Turku. So if you're looking at the map here, you can notice that Finland is kind of in the shape of a woman. It actually used to have another arm, but then it was taken over by the Russians. It was called Karjala. And you'll notice that where the arrow is pointing, it's kind of, Turku is considered to be kind of like the ass of Finland. So you might see people walking around with bags saying, kiss my Turku, and Turku basically meaning kiss my ass. So that's kind of a fun fact about Turku, and you can reach Turku easily by train from Hanko, and the trip takes about 2 hours again. And in the city, you can get to know the medieval Finland by visiting the Turku fortress, and actually Turku is the oldest town in all of Finland. And also, if you're planning your travels to continue to Sweden, this is a port city where the ferries leave from, so you can catch a ferry to go to Sweden from there as well. And actually, Turku is Jasmine's hometown, so, and of course she loves Turku, so we'll let her tell a little bit more about why it's so special.
Yes, so besides Turku being my hometown, Turku has actually won many awards for being a food destination in Finland. I think it's one of the top cities for food in Finland, and has won multiple awards. We have many award-winning restaurants in Turku as well. So if you're a food lover, definitely check out Turku. And another personal thing that I love the most about Turku is the Aurajoki, which is the river that runs through the city. And during the summer times, all the locals, we love to just grab a couple of drinks and chill by the river under the sun. And then from Turku, you can actually go to the Åland Islands, which is the archipelago in Finland. It's definitely something worth experiencing. And of course, this is better done during the summer times. And the Åland Islands is actually a Swedish-speaking area in Finland. So for those of you who don't know, Finland actually has two mother languages, which is Swedish and Finnish. And in the Åland Islands, you'll find mostly Swedish-speaking Finns. So if you would go to Åland Islands and you would speak Finnish to someone, most majority of the time, they will probably answer you in Swedish. And you can take a ferry from Turku to one of the islands, where Mariehamn being the capital of islands, and you can easily spend a day there.
And then we move to Hämeenlinna, our next stop on the journey. And here you can check out the Häme Castle, which is one of the magnificent medieval castles in all of Finland. And there's also a sports center there, which was built for the 1952 Olympics in Helsinki. So if you're into sports or sport history, you can go check that out as well. And if you're more of a design person, you can also visit the Iittala village, which is known as one of the most popular Finnish design brands. And next we go to Koli.
And the next stop on our trip takes you to the Koli National Park, where you have about 80 kilometers of marked trails. You can visit Koli any time of the year, but in the winter, remember to pack accordingly. The hills and lakes in the park are a perfect example of Finnish nature. And if you do decide to go camping, Koli will have what you're looking for.
All right, so it's time to head to the northern Finland, to Lapland. So public transport connections are good also to Rovaniemi, even though it's basically in the middle of nowhere, but it's the perfect base for starting your Lapland adventure. And as we mentioned, one of the activities to do in Finland is to go dog or husky sledding. So this is totally possible here. And it's also known as the official home of Santa Claus. So you should pay a visit to the Santa Claus village when you're in Rovaniemi as well. And if you're more of a history person, there's also the Arcticum Museum, where you can find out about the history of the Arctic, and also beware of the elks.
So yeah, as Mary-Ellen mentioned, our next stop is, of course, the Santa Claus village. Since it's in Rovaniemi, you might as well pop a stop by here. And as we all know, Santa Claus is real. So the Santa Claus village is in Rovaniemi, and it's a fun amusement park to bring back your inner child. You can find various activities there. You can also meet some reindeers, and who knows, maybe you'll wander around and stumble upon the real Santa Claus. Also, for those who don't know, Santa Claus's main post office can also be found here. So if you ever wondered where all your letters to Santa went as a child, they're all sent to the Santa Claus village here in Finland.
And then we go to Levi, and Levi is like an absolutely beautiful destination, especially during winter time when the trees are covered in layers and layers of snow. So if you're a winter sports person, there's basically like Levi offers it all, so you can get anything done here. And here you of course also have a good chance of spotting the northern lights. And then in the summertime, the more north up you go, the longer the days are. And then of course in the winter, the shorter the days are. So here you can also enjoy the magical midnight sun of Finland. And also if it's in your budget, here you can stay in the glass igloos that we mentioned, also known by Levin Iglut.
Yes, and then we go back to Helsinki. So you can fly from Kittilä Airport, which is in Levi, back to Helsinki, where you can enjoy the city a tiny bit still before you leave. And our recommendation is to check out Regatta, which is a famous cafe by the seaside in Helsinki, serving the best cinnamon buns. So before you leave, don't forget to have that Finnish pullakahvi experience we were telling you guys about earlier.
And then, as we promised, we keep our promises, some more information about Northern Lights in Finland. So the best time to see the Northern Lights is obviously during Finland's very, very long winter that lasts from October to March. However, March is actually statistically proven to be the best month to see the Northern Lights. And actually, if the night is clear, you have very high chances of spotting the Northern Lights. In Northern Finland, you can see the Northern Lights around 200 nights a year, which I was even shocked at this, or every other night if the sky is clear. So basically, as long as it's dark and the sky is clear, and of course, if you have a new moon, so the darker, the better, you have very high chances of seeing the Northern Lights in Lapland. And there's also actually a website for tracking the possibility to spot the northern lights called nalert.fi, which we're going to share with you, so you can obviously leverage that as well.
Yes, so the presentation of the trip is over now, but since it just serves as an inspiration, hopefully we got you excited to plan your own trip as a trip leader as well. So for those of you who don't know where to start, we recommend joining our trip leader webinar, which is happening on May 12th, where you will receive a lot of input and information on how to set up a trip on the JoinMyTrip platform. You also have the option to check out the recording on YouTube. This is the same webinar, but just without the question parts in the end. And if you still have any questions left after watching or attending the Trip Leader webinar, then you can also book a time with Anna from our team, who has done a lot of trip as a trip leader herself in the past and is more than happy to share her knowledge in a one-on-one session. And all the links can now be found in the chat. And now you also have the opportunity to receive a 40 euro travel budget for the next trip you publish within the next 72 hours of the webinar. And how can you receive it? First, simply publish your trip on the JoinMyTrip platform. And once it's published, send an email to robin@joinmytrip.com with the link of your trip. And you will then receive the 40 euros after the first booking of a trip mate is made. So hopefully we will see some of you as future trip leaders soon.
And then to the feedback. So feedback is super important to us because, of course, we want to know how we can keep improving our webinars. So we prepared a short feedback form for you to fill, and if you could fill it out, that would be tremendous. And everyone that fills out the form is going to receive the slides afterwards, so you can always refer back to the presentation when planning your trip to Finland. And actually, among all the people who give feedback, you're going to have the chance to win a voucher for 20 euros or around $24 off your next booking with JoinMyTrip. So that's pretty cool as well. And you can find the link now in the chat for the feedback form also. And then if we made you curious about more destinations, hopefully we made you curious about Finland, we recommend that you register yourself for the Greece webinar that is taking place in 2 weeks on a Thursday. And the link for that can also be found in the chat. And then something fun for you, 2 weeks after the Greece webinar, the next travel inspiration webinar is going to take place, and it's going to be a country of your choice. So we have 5 countries here: Portugal, Spain, USA, Mexico, and Germany. So we're going to start a little poll and you can put in your vote.
Still waiting.
Looks like Portugal is going to take the cake.
Yep, it's Portugal.
Yes. So great. We're looking forward to presenting Portugal to you. And this webinar, as we said, is going to take place 4 weeks from now. So be there, be square. And of course, we have more events planned for you.
So before we move on to the questions, we would like to introduce to you some of our upcoming events that you might be interested in joining. So the first one we have is the Travel Fuck Up event that is happening tomorrow night. So it's still not too late to sign up. Here you can come laugh with us at some of the silliest, weirdest, and craziest fails we've made while traveling. So join us in hearing some funny travel stories. Next, we have the How to Travel Safely webinar on the 21st of April that we already mentioned earlier. And then last but not least, we have the Travel Tips USA webinar happening on the 22nd of April. And here we give you an overview of the top destinations and activities for summer 2021 across the USA. And here I'm about to send you the links to the events as well, where you can sign up and find a bit more information as well. Yes, thank you guys all again for joining us, and until next time. Also, keep in mind, if you guys will want more travel content, don't forget to check out our social media as well to keep update. You can mostly find us under JoinMyTrip on almost every social media channel.
And of course, if you have any questions, furthermore questions to me or Jasmine, you can find our contact info there. So feel totally free to pop us an email.